morning. Thank you for joining us here today. My name is David Howard. I'm the senior minister here at Unity Spiritual Center, Denver, and it is indeed my pleasure to say welcome and so glad that you chose to spend part of your morning with us here. I invite you now to say with me our creed that we say every Sunday together. Let us say, our God is love, our race is human, our faith is oneness. And I have a reading I want to share with you today from one of our favorites, Eric Butterworth, Reverend Eric Butterworth. And this is from his book, In the Flow of Life. No matter how real or frightening a situation may be, it is still a transitory thing. Only the good is real and lasting. Look back in your life and recall the times when you were frantic over some crisis, when you were bogged down in some grievous misfortune that seemed to be the end of everything. Where is that challenge now? Where are the people who are standing in the way of your good? Francois Villon sighs, where are the snows of yesterday? Obviously, yesterday's snows have become part of today's trees, plants, rivers, and oceans. All of them have been transformed completely, transmuted into new life and new forms. At any season of the year, one can get into the consciousness of the universal flow just by meditating on the inexorable movement of nature's processes, from the infilling of winter to the outforming of spring, to the richness of summer, to the harvest of fall. Nothing stays. All is changed. It comes to pass. So I invite us to take that in, to remember that no matter what is happening in this moment, it is transitory. This too shall pass. And know that we are always in the flow of that divine life that is living us, breathing us, beating our hearts. And we can center ourselves in that knowing in every moment, simply by returning consciously to the breath. And so now I invite you to join me in singing Surely the Presence. Surely the presence of love is in this place. I can feel the mighty power and the grace. There's a holy hush around us. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of love is in this place. So I invite you to take a moment, settle in wherever you are. Close your eyes if it's comfortable for you. And take a deep breath, a conscious breath. Breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in, we become aware of breath itself. Breath that happens within us so many times every day without our conscious awareness of it. Without us having to do anything to make it happen. Breath, grateful in every breath, present in every breath, knowing the divine life energy is breathing us in every moment. We are always in the flow of life, just as we are always in the flow of breath. And as we come into that awareness, we feel the energy of that life animating every cell of our bodies, every fiber of our being alive with the energy of life itself. And we feel the gratitude for that realization. We claim this as our truth, this life, this power, this presence that is having its life in us right now. As we claim it for ourselves, we claim it for each other. Everyone who is experiencing this service right now, everyone in our family, everyone in our extended circle, everyone on the planet, we know this truth for. And right now, especially, we want to hold in our collective consciousness all of those who are on our hearts and minds today. So I invite you to bring to mind anyone, any situation that might be in any way disturbing or calling your attention. And we hold each one, each situation in the light of truth, knowing that the truth is there is only one life, and that life is the life of the divine that lives and moves and has its being in and through each one of us. And in that knowing, we are grateful. We know that this is the truth. We know it is so, and so we allow it to be. So it is. Amen. So early in the summer, I received a call from Charles Holt asking about coming to do music and message here. And I thought, for sure, we'll be back doing in-person services by December. So I invited him to come and do music and message for our service today. Again, thinking that we would be back in our facility by then. And lo and behold, we're not, obviously. So Charles graciously has recorded a message and music for us, and so we will be playing that for you as part of the service this morning. So our guest speaker today, our guest singer today, is Charles Holt. And I wanted to tell you just a little bit about Charles. Many of you were here, have been here when he was here before, but I want to remind you about Charles. He's a native of Nashville and a graduate of Rhodes College. He's a gifted Broadway actor, dynamic speaker. He inspires audiences around the world with his message of healing, empowerment, and freedom. He's starred in some of the most celebrated shows in American musical theater history, such as Smokey Joe's Cafe, Jesus Christ Superstar, the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and Lion King. He has addressed organizations such as TEDx, Berkeley, and Nashville, NCORE, which is the National Conference on Race and Ethnicity, Rikers Island Correctional Facility, Facing History and Ourselves, and numerous colleges, universities, and churches. He's an accomplished vocalist, which you will hear, and a recording artist, as well as an author of 2 books, Intuitive Rebel and Between Me and Dad. Charles actively conducts and facilitates emotional literacy programs, educational empowerment workshops, and creative writing seminars. So it is my pleasure to welcome Charles Holt. I wish he was here in person, but we have him virtually. So thank you, Charles, for being here.
Rolling river God, little stones are smooth, Only once the water passes through. Now I am a stone, rough and grainy still, trying to reconcile this river's chill. But when I close my eyes and feel you rushing by, I know that time brings change, and change takes time. And when the sunset comes, my prayer will be just one, that you might pick me up and notice that I am just a little smoother in your hand, sometimes raging wild, sometimes swollen high, but never have I known this river dry. The deepest part of you is where I want to stay and feel the sharpest edges wash away. But when I close my eyes and feel you rushing by, I know that time brings change, and change takes time. And when the sunset comes, my prayer will be just one, that you might pick me up and notice that I am I'm just a little smoother in your hands. Rolling river God, these little stones are smooth. It's only once the water passes through. Hi, my name is Charles Holt, and I am full of joy. I am delighted to be with you all at Unity Spiritual Center, Denver. It's been a while, and so many things have transpired since our last time together. And today I just wanted to take an opportunity to share with you some of those things that have been happening in my life. One thing in particular. But I also wanted to take the opportunity to uplift, to empower, to inspire, and to offer a word of healing during this time and every time, but especially during this time. We're approaching the holiday season, the hype, and all that comes with it. And I think the message today is going to be particularly informing. I did not have a particular topic, or I should say, I did not have a particular title. I do have a topic. And so the title kind of came to me because I've been talking about the resuscitative breath, the breath that kind of wakes us up, that's always here, always present with us, but then becoming conscious to it. Earlier this year, in the month of March, I had relocated to Atlanta, Georgia, and it was just before the pandemic hit. So the latter part of March was a very daunting and dark time for me. The stage that I love the most, the Broadway stage, was closed. Well, everything was closed. Everything was shut down. But the Broadway stage in particular hit home because it's home to me. I love the stage. I love performing, and I love the audience participation as we go on our journeys in storytelling and music. Nevertheless, I had a brick wall, and the top of April was particularly challenging for me. So from the time that the announcement, the pandemic, the president had made the announcement that this is something that we're going to have to deal with, the state of emergency, pandemic, global. I thought to myself when it first happened, we'll get through this. We'll get through this, and I'll be on my way back to auditioning in New York in a couple of weeks. It'll be a couple of weeks before all of this runs its course and is over with. Well, the top of April, things were seemingly getting worse. And in fact, they were beginning to lock places down. And here in the city of Atlanta, they issued a curfew. And during that time, I remember I was preparing dinner. And before putting anything on the stove, I was washing my vegetables in the sink. Carefully washing my vegetables. And my mind began to race. First, it was almost a paralyzation, of fear and uncertainty that took over me. I'm still washing these vegetables very carefully, and I slip into this mode of depression. In that very moment, I felt so much despair. Didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know how things were going to come back to some kind of normalcy, if they ever would. And so my mind began to race around this worst case scenario, if you will. From that place of depression, I went into, I would call it a sadness, just trying to wrap my head around the fact that the stage that I loved so much, the things that I love to do so much in sharing and giving to the world, the way that I give, has been shut down. And that made me so sad in that moment. And from sadness, I went into a place of irritation and frustration. How could this be happening, I thought? There has to be a reason for all of this happening. Why is it happening to me? So I sunk into what many call a victim mode. Why is this? Why me? Why Oh, why, God, I asked myself. And then I came back into this deeper depression. Everything seemed like it was just spiraling down. Still washing my vegetables in the sink. And from that depression, I went into anger. Angry for where I was in that present moment. Angry for the fact that I didn't know the answer. And nobody else could give a resolve to what was happening. Everybody was scrambling, and I was angry at myself for being where I was. I thought that I had taken so many wrong steps in that particular moment. Still washing the vegetables and thinking to myself, where did I make the wrong move? Where did I go wrong? Should I have stayed here in corporate America when I got that job with IBM right out of college? Why did I leave that? And so all of that began to swirl like this hurricane, if you will, this slow moving but gigantic hurricane in my mind. And I began to become resentful for all of the choices that I thought I had made to land myself in a situation such as this. Why don't I have my own house? Why don't I own my own place? My car is really old. It's in good shape, but it's really old. I found everything to blame. And I blamed myself. I blamed myself for my situation, circumstance, and condition, which I thought was dire. And in that moment, it did feel like I was just hopeless. But that's part of the victim consciousness, or I should say, the victimhood, because we become unconscious of, or I should say, I become unconscious of all of the things that I have in that moment. All of the great things, all of the gratitude that I could be expelling and experiencing in that moment. But I was traveling pretty quickly down this rabbit hole of despair. And then I began to blame my parents. The blame, shame game went on for what seemed like an eternity in my mind. If my parents had taught me better sense about finances and economics, I could have been financially secure by now, and I wouldn't be in this predicament of trying to get gigs, and there are no gigs to get right now. There are no gigs to be had. If my parents had told me how to spend my time preparing for a crisis, I would have been much better off now. If my father had taught me this, if my mother had told me that. And I began to blame all the people around me for what I was feeling in that moment, which was nothing more than uncertain and unsure about everything. I had lost all trust in myself. Not one time did I think to call on God. Spirit divine, help. I was too far gone. And my mind was in the throes of this tossing and turning, this gnashing and the weeping. And then all of a sudden, I became so angry that the rage inside of me began to resonate. And what I mean by that is I could feel how what I was feeling, those feeling tones, that anger that I had inside of me began to affect my body temple. I felt it. I've never felt it before, but I felt it then. And it was somewhat of a shaking sensation where I think it was just too much for my internal organs to deal with. Of course, all of that which I had created in my mind was affecting my entire being. And I do believe that somewhere in there, it came to an apex. All of the chaos that was happening inside of me came to an apex. And all of a sudden, I'm still washing these vegetables. And the rage is going on. It's like me being tossed by these waves, this sea of uncertainty, this raging out of control fear that has taken over me. And all of a sudden, I take a breath. It's not just any breath. Have you ever been swimming and found yourself out far from the shore or really deep, and then all of a sudden you start to run out of breath, and you're trying your best to get to the shore so you can breathe, or you're trying your best to come up to the surface so you can take that precious breath of air. You're trying to find it, and you're rushing to the surface. And you get to the surface, and all you can do is spring out of the water, and the breath is and you come out of it. That's the breath that I took. It was the breath that woke me up. It was the breath that resuscitated me from that sea of fear and uncertainty that I had created for myself and begun to swim in, or try to swim in it. It was that breath that held within it all of those things that I had said in my rage of blame and shame and disgust and resentment and anger. All of those things that I said was no good had landed me in this situation. Look at what's happening now, and I'm not prepared. It is that breath that allowed me to understand that it prepared me. I had been prepared just for this moment. I heard my higher mind say, call someone else. You need to hear another voice. And it was right. So I picked up my cell phone and I began to call a couple of friends of mine and talked with them about what I had just experienced. I said I went into this deep hole. Started with depression. I couldn't feel my way out of it. What am I to do now, I thought? My creative energies are cut off, seemingly. Then into all of the tirades of resentment and fear and anger, blame and shame. I played the game, I told them. And I said, Charles, just take a breath, take a breath. I'll take a breath with you. And I thought, wow, this is the breath that's always been with me. Through all of this, and it's the breath now, it's the breath that resuscitated me from all of that chaos and craziness that went through my mind. By the time now, my greens are good and washed. After about an hour down a rabbit hole, creating something in my mind out of fear, uncertainty, doubt, blame, shame, you name it, only to be resuscitated back to my true self. And when I say true self, I mean that part of me that's always known that there was something in me that had been prepared for whatever condition or circumstance or situation in my life. It always had been preparing me for this. And so the questions that I started asking after that episode, after that experience was, what is trying to get my attention now? What is trying to emerge through me now? And of course, that old mind, that terrified mind and horrified mind was asking, what do you mean? You need your creative energy to even get an impulse of what it is that's trying to emerge through you. And I said, no. This happened for a reason. I went down that rabbit hole for a reason. And it was to get me to come up out of the water of despair to an ocean of good, to my ocean of good, that good that already had my vision in mind. It held it intact. So all I had to do now was remind myself that with any vision, there is provision. And I did have a vision. So how do I move through this now, God? How do I download more of what I need to know about my good, my gift, my talent, my sharing, so that I can give it back, so that I can share it and give it to the people of the world? I want to do that. That's my intention. That's my holy, holy intention. And the answers have been coming. And they continue to come. What I've just shared with you is my own account of just one of the stories that I have that has taken me through so many different changes and shifts and transformed my mind and transformed my life within the last 9 months, 10 months. But I'm not by myself. We all have been going through this. We all have been trying to ask the question that gets the attention of this universal presence that we call God, the supreme inspiration, the divine wisdom, as I call it. And yes, it's right here with us, breathing us. It is the resuscitative breath that we take every conscious moment. Every moment we take it. And it's waking us up to what we're here to do now. What we're here to feel now. What we're here to be now. And what we are here to become. I'd like to take this moment and ask you, invite you to take this holy breath, this resuscitative breath with me. And in this moment, I give great thanks for being here, for being a part of what is unfolding that may not have all the details to, but they're coming. They're coming. They're coming in our patience. They're coming in our joy, in our laughter, in our silence. They're coming through nature. They're coming through words that may not be spoken directly to us, but are for us. They're coming through what we see, perhaps a design in the bark of a tree or a bird flying above or our pets coming to jump, to leap into our arms and give us indication that somebody, something loves you, cares about you, and you matter, and what you believe matters, what you think matters, and who you know you are matters. I'm grateful in this moment. Grateful in this moment. I'm grateful for the time that we've shared together. And I ask that as you move through this heightened season of giving gifts and receiving, that every now and then in the heightened awareness that we remember to take that breath, the conscious resuscitative breath, and think about all that we've come to do, what's being asked of us now. It has been a pleasure, my joy, to be with you today. And I wish you the very best. We got a lot to do, got a lot to feel, have a whole lot of things that we are becoming. And it's great, and it's for the greater good. Yes, it is. This is Charles Holt. I bid you the best life ever. And I hope to see you in person real soon. Peace and joy to you.
So thank you, Charles, for that message, powerful words. Thank you for sharing with us so authentically and being so vulnerable in your sharing with us. We do appreciate your presence and your words, so thank you so much. So now I invite you, if you would like, to join me in a time of meditation. So once again, let's close our eyes, take a breath, go into that place deep within our hearts. As Charles talked about, this breath, that it's all right here, right now. And we're willing to breathe into this place of knowing. Everything comes into focus. Everything is here, right now, present, awaiting our recognition and remembrance of it. All of life. And so just allow yourself to breathe consciously, opening yourself up to new awarenesses, new possibilities, new perspectives as you allow the breath to be your focus. As we go into a time of silence, just continue to focus on the breath and allow the breath to bring its own awareness. And so once again, just take a conscious breath. Allow that breath to go as deep as you possibly can, just opening you up, the center of your being, filling you up. And allow that breath to flow out, releasing, letting go, knowing that you are always in the flow of that divine life, the divine good that is yours in every moment. Know that you are always being breathed. The breath of God is breathing me, and resting in the breath of God, I know that all is well. The breath of God is breathing me, and resting in the breath of God, I know that all is well. 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 And we breathe. And now is a time in our service where you have the opportunity to express your love, to share from your good, to support the ministry here at Unity Spiritual Center Denver. There are many ways for you to do that. Right there on your screen, you will see those options. And we so appreciate all the ways you give and all your continued support of this ministry. And so I invite you now to say our offertory blessing with me. Divine love as me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. I am thankful.
An angel asked me, do you know who you are? The question and the answer is not very far. The song of the sages, the knowledge of the ages is living where you reside. You have the key that unlocks the door to enter in that sacred place you haven't gone before, where deep meets deep, soul to soul. Feel that connection as the truth unfolds. I am, I am. I am, you are, yeah, I am. You are the answer, yes, you are the key that unlocks the door to freedom and leads you to me. Look deep inside you. Trust the force that guides you, it knows the way. Yeah. There's no separation, we're one and the same. A child of the Creator, known by different names. The Alpha and Omega, the eternal flame that burns deep inside you. Do you know my name? I am. To the oceans, I am. From the rocks to the trees, I am. All the stars and constellations, I am. You are, I am. From the mountains to the oceans, I am. From the rocks to the trees, I am. All the stars and constellations, I am. You are. I am mystical, yeah. I am love, and you live in me from the very low, from the very low. I am. We're one and the same. A child of the Creator, known by different names. The Alpha and Omega, the eternal flame. It burns deep inside you. Do you know my name? I am. From the mountains to the oceans, I am. From the rocks to the trees, oh, all the stars and constellations, I am. I am. you are, yeah. Peace, it passes all understanding. I am joy that's overflowing. I am love in abundance. I am, you are, we are, yes we are. I am, oh, I am, yes I am, I am.
So once again, I want to say thank you, Charles. We so appreciate you coming to us from Atlanta. And I know that you all were blessed by not only Charles' words, but his music, his talent, his voice, his spirit as well. And we're so glad. Hopefully we can have you come back at some point, Charles, when we are here in our facility. We know we can make that happen. I want to remind you that today is virtual fellowship at 11:30 on Zoom. The link will be posted right here in the comments section, and we would love to have you join us. It's so good to see your faces and to hear what's going on in your lives. We would really love to have you come and be a part of that. So please join us at 11:30. Also, looking ahead, I want you to know that we will be having a virtual Christmas Eve service starting at 5 o'clock. We would love to have you join us for that, and we're going to be mailing you some things that you can use to participate. And the following week on New Year's Eve, where we'll have our what used to be a burning bowl ceremony, but this year it's going to be a water bowl ceremony. So you might need to tune in to find out a little bit more about what that is. That will be at 7 o'clock on New Year's Eve. So we'd love to have you join us for any or all of those. So once again, thank you for being here today. Now I invite you to join me as we say our closing prayer. The light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. Wherever we are, God is, and so it is. And now I invite you to join me as we sing our closing song, Love Can Move the World. Love can move the world as the moon in the sky moves the sea. Love can cause the wars to cease. Love can move this world to peace. It's a tide that begins with you and me. Love can move the world as the warmth of the sun moves the trees. Feel the winds of love increase as we move this world to peace. Come, love the world with